Welcome to Everyday A New Thought. I'm Thor Chalgren. Today, I'm going to talk about how to get what you want, even when it seems like maybe you can't get what you want. I'm going to talk about the idea of speaking to the energetic manager. I have a 4-step process that you can apply to any kind of no-win situation where you're dealing with a customer service issue, where it seems like things aren't working out. And how do you adjust to that? How do you adapt to that? Well, we're going to talk about that today. This idea comes from my book, Best Vacation Ever. This is number 45 of about 325 different ways to make any travel experience better. So this is something that I'm going to talk about in a travel context, but honestly, you could actually apply this to any sort of scenario where you are faced with a challenge where either it's a customer service issue where you just run into a brick wall and someone either isn't willing to help you, they say this is the best they can do. And so even though I'm going to talk about this in a travel context with a travel example, think about this and how you can use this in almost any situation. So I'm going to start by saying there are people on YouTube videos where they are not getting what they want. And you probably have seen some of these because they go irate, they complain, they throw a tirade. So what we want to do is avoid being that kind of person, because for a lot of them, they end up not getting what they want. Maybe even some of them end up dealing with law enforcement. So that's not what we're talking about. So the question is there a way to get what you want in an impossible situation? And to be honest, the answer is not always. There may be some times where you can't get what you want. I think the Rolling Stones talked about that. You can't always get what you want, but we want to be able to be happy with what you can get. And by looking at the energy that you bring to a situation, your way of looking at it, you can actually change the circumstances and change the situation and maybe get something that is closer to what you want. So instead of saying, I want to speak to the manager today, we're going to change that to, I'm speaking to the energetic manager. So let's start by saying that you have a problem. And I'm going to give you an example and we'll talk through this and I'll show you how these 4 steps can apply to this example. So in this situation, let's say you've been traveling. It's a long day. You've been on a long flight. You get to your hotel and they tell you that your room isn't ready, or it's going to be a while, or they don't have your exact room. Basically, you're not going to be able to get into your room after a long flight. And you've got kids with you and they're going crazy. And the clerk is telling you, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. You probably heard this. Like a lot of times they're trained. Well, they're not trained if they go through good customer service, but their first instinct is to just say, there's nothing I can do, because the hope is you'll just go away. So what do you do in that situation? Well, instead of launching into anger where you play the victim of like, this always happens to me, or you go to the place of assuming that that's true, instead of doing that, let's try this. So these are the 4 steps that you can employ in a situation like this. And I'll give you the 4 steps and then I'll show you with the example that I described of how they play out. So first, you're going to express your understanding of the situation. More on that in a second. Second, tell them that you do appreciate their efforts on your behalf. Third, explain what your most important need is. Then fourth, ask for their assistance. Ask if there's anything that they can help you with. So first, you understand the situation. Second, you appreciate their efforts on your behalf. Third, explain what your most important need is. And fourth, ask if there's anything that they can help you with. And by the way, I'll put these in the description so you can quickly and easily see those. So let's look at that example that I gave you where your room isn't ready. So what would you say in a context like that if you were working through those 4 steps? So first, you might say, I understand there doesn't appear to be a room available. So you're stating what they've told you. You are expressing empathy, that also you're not crazy. You understand and you're hearing what they're telling you. But you also notice I languaged it in a way where I say, there doesn't appear to be a room available. So you're not conceding that it isn't available. You're just saying, I understand what you're telling me. So that's the first step, is you've sort of talked them down. So you're communicating to them, I am not a crazy person. Next, you say, and I do appreciate everything that you've been doing to help me. So that's gratitude. You're expressing appreciation to them. Use words like, thank you for everything you're doing. I appreciate you. This is great that you've helped me through this so far. So again, what you're doing is you're trying to change the energy here to where you are now a reasonable person who's actually being kind to them, instead of like the last person that yelled at them and went into a huff and said, don't you know I'm a platinum this or a silver that. Third, you say, we've been flying for 12 hours and the kids would love to change into their suits to go swimming. So this is where you're expressing what's the most important need that you have. So you're not saying, give me the damn room right now. You're saying, this is the one problem I'd love for you to help me with. My kids want to go swimming. Can you help me with that? And then finally, you conclude with, is there something you can do to help with that? What you're doing is you're saying, is there something you can do to help me with this one situation? So before it was a no, and now you've narrowed the scope of the problem to the point where now you're saying, here's one little thing. Can you do something to help me with that? With this kind of approach, you're more likely to enlist their cooperation. And by asking for something simple, you've kept the dialogue going, and maybe there's now something that they would be willing to do to help nice people like you who've been kind. Maybe you'll get comped some special benefit or amenity that you wouldn't have received by complaining or jumping into an angry tirade. And honestly, this kind of experience, this dialogue just feels better. I mean, you're on vacation in this example, or you're living your life. Who wants to be in a constant state of enragement? So the next time you're having some kind of unresolvable customer service issue, whether it's in travel or in the regular part of your life, try this 4-step process. And instead of asking to speak to the manager, speak to the energetic manager. Thank you so much for watching the show today. I appreciate you being here. If you like this episode, please hit like and hit subscribe. That way, every day there's an episode of the show, you'll receive it in your inbox. Until tomorrow, thanks so much for watching.